Romeo and Juliet at the Globe Theatre. The play's not real, so don't be afraid. A London Globe Theatre production of Romeo and Juliet came to people's attention in the late summer of 2021 because of its warnings about the troubling things to be found in the play. You may possibly think I'm joking, but I'm not, when I say that the show notes issued to the audience actually warned that the actors sometimes shouted at each other and that animal masks were worn during a masked ball. But what I want to concentrate on in the show notes is the repeated theme of reassurance that various things in the performance were not real, as in the following extracts, which I'm giving you word for word. There is stage fighting in this production. The violence is not real. The fighting is fake, and no one is hurt. There is stage blood and vomit in this production. It is not real. There are gunshots in this production. The guns are not real, and the sound of the gunshot comes from a small explosive under the stage. This is not dangerous. Near the end of the play, when Romeo drinks poison, the actor pretends to vomit and convulse. This is not real, and he is not hurt. At the end, Juliet shoots herself. This is not real. To sum up the message of the stage notes, what you're going to see, audience, isn't real life at all, but just a play. So there's no need for anyone to be afraid or upset. Now, the fundamental problem with such a message is that it completely undermines the nature of a play, which is to weave a spell whereby the members of the audience believe in what they see, even though they know it isn't real. Obviously, everybody knows that in the course of the play, the actors who play the parts of Romeo, Juliet, Mercutio and Tybalt do not actually die. But when we enter the world of the play, we must believe that what happens to the play's characters has a reality that compels our complete attention and engagement. It is therefore necessary for us, in the famous remark of the poet Coleridge, to suspend our disbelief. If we do not do this, we will not enter properly into the play's world, and we will not gain from our visit to the theatre what the playwright intended us to gain. A director or theatre company putting on Romeo and Juliet should be doing all it can to create an illusion that we are present in Romeo and Juliet's world, and that the tragic events that happened there are indeed real. Not doing the exact opposite, which is to dispel the illusion, shatter the magic spell. To do such a thing is foolishly, absurdly counterproductive. Several people have already commented on the Globe's behaviour, criticising it in various ways, but no one that I'm aware of has asked, what would Shakespeare have thought about it? This is exactly what I'm now going to do, and I'm going to answer my question definitively by telling you that Shakespeare has already given us his thoughts about the matter, as I'll explain. In Shakespeare's comedy, A Midsummer Night's Dream, almost certainly written in the same year, 1595, that Shakespeare wrote Romeo and Juliet, in A Midsummer Night's Dream there appears a play within a play, a tragedy called Pyramus and Thisbe, which, coincidentally, resembles Romeo and Juliet quite closely. To summarise very briefly, two ill-fated lovers go against their parents in order to be together, the story ending tragically with the lovers committing suicide one after the other. This tragic play within a play is deliberately turned into a comic farce by Shakespeare because it is put on by a group of amateur actors who are well-meaning but unskilled, ill-educated and of limited intelligence. They're ordinary working men, mechanicals as Shakespeare calls them, and the most memorable of them is the celebrated comic character called Bottom, who is a weaver. Rather as I did when I talked earlier about the Globe's production of Romeo and Juliet, in my comments on the play put on by Bottom and his friends, I'm going to deal with the reassurances for the audience beforehand. And I'll do this by giving you some extracts from a passage in A Midsummer Night's Dream that comes at the start of a rehearsal for the play within a play. Bottom begins by drawing the attention of Peter Quince, the carpenter, to a problem when it comes to the actual performance of the play before a live audience. By the way, note that when Bottom calls their play a comedy, he's stupidly getting the genre wrong, as the play is a tragedy. But he's also ironically correct, as their performance will turn out to be utterly, unintentionally farcical. Here we go. Peter Quince! What sayst thou, Bully Bottom? There are things in this comedy of Pyramus and Thisbe that will never please. First, Pyramus must draw a sword to kill himself, which the ladies of the audience cannot abide. How answer you that? At this point, two others of the mechanicals, Snout the Tinker and Starveling the Tailor, reply as follows. By'r Lakin, a powerless fear. I believe we must leave the killing out when all is done. Bottom, however, comes up with a different answer. Thus. Not a whit. I have a device to make all well. Write me a prologue, and let the prologue seem to say, we will do no harm with our swords, and Pyramus is not killed indeed. And for the better assurance, tell him that I, Pyramus, am not Pyramus, but Bottom the Weaver. This will put him out of fear. A key difference between Pyramus and Thisbe and Romeo and Juliet is the appearance in the former play of a ferocious lion. And the conversation of the amateur actors continues with this lion being brought up as yet another thing for the audience to be afraid of. In the exchange that follows, Bottom speaks first, followed by Snout, and then Bottom has the last very full word. Masters, you ought to consider with yourselves to bring in, God shield us, a lion among ladies is a most dreadful thing. For there is not a more fearful wildfowl than your lion living. We must look to it. Therefore another prologue must tell he is not a lion. Nay, you must name his name, and half his face must be seen through the lion's neck, and he himself must speak through, saying thus, Fair ladies, I would wish you, request you, entreat you, not of fear, not a tremble. If you think I come hither as a lion, it were pity of my life. No, I am no such thing. I am as a man, as other men are. And there indeed let him name his name, and tell them plainly, he is Snug the joiner. You'll note throughout these speeches how Bottom is concerned with the ladies, in this instance the genteel ladies of the Royal Athenian court, whose tender sensibilities are likely, to use the modern jargon, to be triggered by the horrors of swords, suicide and savage beasts. To transfer things to the Globe Theatre production of Romeo and Juliet, the ladies are the entire modern audience, man, woman and child. Bottom and his friends, for all their simple-minded gentlemanliness in deference to the feelings of fair ladies, Bottom and Co. are shown by Shakespeare to be utterly ridiculous, of course. And by extension, we can say that Shakespeare is speaking across the centuries, from the year 1595 directly through to the year 2021, telling us that the Globe Theatre's warnings and reassurances about Romeo and Juliet are utterly ridiculous as well. An audience must believe that the dramatic spectacle presented to them is, in a special sense, true. And this truth should not be undermined by fatuous assurances that the blood and gore aren't real, and that no one should be unduly fearful or troubled by experiencing the play. In fact, it's essential that an audience should be fearful and troubled by what they see and hear during a performance of one of Shakespeare's most poignant tragedies. If the Globe Theatre and the director of its recent production of Romeo and Juliet had had a proper understanding of Shakespeare, of Romeo and Juliet, and of the nature of tragic drama, they would not have issued their very foolish and, yes, untheatrical show notes. Thank you for listening.